Real Rhinelander podcast is sponsored by AirPro Fan and Blower Company. For more information, visit airprofan.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our November edition of the Real Rhinelander podcast. I am joined with Abbey Dall today. We're going to have some great conversation. As you know, the Real Rhinelander podcast, our goal is to have real, authentic conversations with business professionals, community leaders to talk about, the real kind of behind the scenes Rhinelander, and dive into some deeper stories and hear more about the people that are doing things in our community. So welcome.
Thanks, Lauren, for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm so excited you were able to join us. Lots of great conversations I think we'll have today. But ultimately, if somebody doesn't know who you are, can you just give us a little overview of you?
Absolutely. So Lauren already introduced me. I'm Abbey Dall Lukowski. I am from the Rhinelander area. Abbey Dall is how most people know me. Born and raised Hodag.
Yeah.
Left, came back, raised my family, and didn't leave for long, like 6-month stints, or maybe even less. And have made Rhinelander my home. I am proud to be a 6th generation Rhinelander Hodag, and so I wear that with strong shoulders. And
very cool.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Awesome. And so if you could tell us a little bit about, some of the organizations that you're involved in, maybe your day job and your other day job and
all of those many hats. Okay. So first and foremost, I am a mom, and I am born and raised, I already said that, in Rhinelander. And so really appreciate the Rhinelander community as a whole. I appreciate all the work that's done from everybody in all those little organizations. So, my first job is I am the NATH, Northwoods Alliance for Temporary Housing, Frederick Place Executive Director. And what that means is I'm running a nonprofit just like you and keeping the day-to-day operations for our local neighbors who are homeless or unhoused. We have a pretty great success rate. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. Mm-hmm. My second job, as a result of working at NATH Frederick Place, is that we needed childcare to support our workforce in this area. So my second job is that I am the CEO and a co-founder of AE Academy, which is a local childcare center that we've kind of revived, if you will, or refurbished and brought back into town. So that is keeping us really busy. And among other things, I'm involved in a lot of little organizations and that kind of thing. So
yeah. And I think we'll definitely chat about the homelessness as well as childcare in a little bit, because I know those are both very important topics to our community and things that we should talk about.
Absolutely.
So, a little bit, you did say that you're originally from Rhinelander, moved away in little stints and came back. Yep. And I'm just curious, I like to kind of ask our guests, why Rhinelander? Obviously you grew up here. Everyone potentially that grew up here, I did too, has the opportunity to move away, but why did you choose to stay? Why Rhinelander?
So my family would say that I'm a little too nostalgic sometimes. I really appreciate history. So, Kerry Bladorn and his history, I'm like, oh, I know more about that. Let me tell you about this. And I like to piece all of those things together. So our hiking trail, Humboldt Park, I have been hiking that since I was a very little girl. The second piece I wanted to come back. My dad was a public school teacher. My mom worked for Nicolay College, and I just saw the value in raising a family in this particular area. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we didn't have the YMCA, or we didn't have several of these really larger projects that had been taking place in the Rhinelander area. It was just that it was a hometown feel. So when you are living in Rhinelander with your family, you kind of have all of these community moms and dads taking care of your kids. Mm-hmm. Not that they're not with you, but they have other people watching out for them and educating them along the way. And then the other piece is just to keep that history alive and keep it well. And I think you need catalysts in communities of folks who have lived here for a long period of time to recognize and understand why things were done the way that they were done. Mm-hmm. So example, when we opened up AE Academy, some of the residential things had changed. So it had changed to residential 1 versus commercial. And I knew all of that back history already, that it had been a center, that it was opened in 93, just because I had lived here. And that's just kind of some of those natural things that you pick up on as you go. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to raise my family here because it's low crime. People take care of each other. You have all of this great woods, the seasons all around you, and you have people who care
Yeah.
really truthfully care.
I think that kind of comes through in quite a bit of the conversations that we've had already, but like Rhinelander is just a community that has so much spirit and care for each other.
Yes. We have the hodag as our catalyst, but it's really not, like as our kind of glue that keeps us together. But it's more than that.
It's not really about the creature.
No,
it's about the
family.
Yes.
I think. I had a friend who relocated here 20 years ago from New York. And one time she's like, y'all are different here. She's like, I don't even know if there is a class reunion for my school. But she's like, but yet all of you show up on one day a year to celebrate together. It doesn't matter what year you graduated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's because hodags are cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an identifying thing. We have lots of conversations, or you'll be out traveling and they'll see a hodag on your shirt and be, oh, Rhinelander, I'm a hodag too.
Yeah.
Well, it happens way more often than you think it would.
Absolutely. My favorite was I was in Mexico for a short period, I think about a month stay. And somebody came up to me because I saw a hodag on my, I know where that is. And I'm like, oh, you do? It's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Right?
So,
yeah. Okay. So we've talked about briefly that you are the Executive Director at NATH Frederick Place and CEO of AE Academy. Those are two
large hats,
big deal, high impact jobs on our community. Like they're important topics to our workforce and our community, homelessness and childcare. I'm just wondering if you can kind of relate to our listeners, like why maybe you gravitated to those roles,
sure.
Like why you want to choose to be involved in those.
Absolutely. So I have a grandmother who lived in LA and an aunt who lives in LA, California. And then my brother lives in Vermont, Brattleboro, Vermont, and areas where there's a high amount of homelessness happening, where homeless camps are like kind of a part of the norm, if you will. And so that's a piece of it. The second, so I'm kind of setting that as a foundation, because the second piece of it is that about 15 years ago, I was working in public health with the United County Public Health Department, and Frederick Place was just an idea, and all of these community members were coming together. And I was at the time, I was on the naysayer. I'm a homeless shelter right in the middle of town. I'm not sure that's a great idea from a safety standpoint. Mm-hmm. What I found, though, is that as Frederick Place was evolving and coming to fruition during those charter board meetings, before there was even a board, there was just charter meetings of community members coming together to say, hey, we think there's a need here we need to address, is that there was a sense of community that came together. And I think it was the Rhinelander hodag that brought us together. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it was that kind of that spirit that is just kind of a Rhinelander thing, where folks were like, no, but we need to take care of our neighbors. This isn't necessarily a Christianity piece. It's not necessarily a social. I mean, so you could like go into all those different pieces, but there was a genuine need to care for those who were unhoused. Mm-hmm. I think there's a misperception that homelessness is always addiction related, or is always kind of folks who are just choosing to live this authentic or this like alternative lifestyle, if you will, mm-hmm. Not authentic, but an alternative lifestyle. And it's really not. What we have found in the Northwoods community, at least, is that with the change in the housing market, with the change in some of our environments, is that we have a lot of folks who are transitionary. So they're like they're transient. So they're living couch to couch. Like they might stay at Lauren's tonight. Now they're going to stay at Uncle Bob's tomorrow night, mm-hmm. and they're going to stay at Dad's the next night. We also have a lot of families who are becoming homeless, because we've had a lot of people who want to be a part of this area, and they're coming and they're buying out homes that were maybe once rentals and now are not. We have a lot of elders, and we have a lot of veterans, mm-hmm. and we have all of these different initiatives that are coming about. But what made it a piece for me that I wanted to be a part of it is I didn't want to see people who I knew as community members not be in a loving home environment while they temporarily reset. Any one of us could be mm-hmm. homeless at any given time. It could be something as simple as a medical issue and could put us straight into a deep hole of financial debt, but we wanted to have a loving home. So when Tammy left, I was working for Potawatomi in a very high stress job, although they were very, very good to us mm-hmm. As division administrators. It was high stress. I was working in child protective services essentially, and good pay and all of those good things. But here I was living about a quarter mile down the road, and Tammy was leaving. I'm like, oh, I think this is my turn, and I should kind of change my pathway and come back home and serve my community. Servant leader at heart. I wanted to be able to serve my community. And as you very well know, nonprofit is not a money-making proposition, but it's a way for me to give back to a community and keep our community thriving by serving that need.
Definitely. And I think that's true when you flip it over to the childcare side of things too, serving your youngest populations in that way. Yeah. I love that. I love learning the backgrounds of all of these people. It's just so fun to have these conversations. And so on the childcare side of things, can you talk about just a little bit of like why you finally decided or why you decided to launch this? Like, obviously there's a childcare crisis, not only here, but nationwide. It's a big topic. But what made you really take that leap?
Well, in your role, Lauren, you have been a part of this child care coalition and trying to figure out solutions for the child care in our area for 5 years now, 4 years, since COVID, maybe.
Yeah, about COVID times. When we've had a formalized coalition for about 2 years now.
Okay. So you have to obviously know what the deficit is. And without a healthy child care workforce and childcare agency in our communities, our workforce suffers. If our workforce suffers, our housing suffers. It's such a catalyst piece of the framework and glue to a thriving community is to have childcare. Why I decided to jump full, like feet first into the cold swimming pool was that in the last year, so a year and a half ago, we had 10 families come through Frederick Place, all with children under the age of 4. So not children who were school age, where we could help them receive services from our public school system, which was thriving and working well. We didn't have childcare for our youngest members. And so I think the worst feeling at Frederick Place, we have 5 rules. When you stay with us, it's absolutely free. We're completely community funded. So we have about maybe $10,000 in grants, but we don't even rely on those because they kind of change. We have 5 rules. And one is be respectful to the team around you, to your community members you're living with, and to the staff that you're living with. The second is that we're a zero tolerance facility. So you have to maintain sobriety. But the 2 most important is that you need to seek sustainable employment and sustainable housing solutions. So what a tear at the heartstring when you have a mom come in with 3 little kids who are all under the age of 4. And she's like, good news, I got the job. And if I get this job, I'm going to be able to afford that apartment. And and she's like, and I got little Johnny and Sally and Ben on the wait list at this childcare center and that childcare center, that childcare center. So it's only a matter of time and I'll be able to start. And I'm like,
and sometimes the wait lists are a year or so long.
Exactly. And so I'm going, I remember looking at one of my staff members and going, so do we tell her now? I think we just let her relish in the joy of getting the job and having a good day. And tomorrow we'll break the news to her that all of those childcare solutions are not going to be available. So then a developer purchased that space that we're in, and he kind of nonchalantly says, anyone want to reopen up a childcare center? And then me, because I can't say no, it's probably one of my weakest things about myself, is I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do this. I've run childcare. When I worked at Potawatomi, I ran Rising Sun Daycare, which had 70 kids. I'm like, that can't be that hard, right? Yeah, absolutely. We'll do this. And then I went, oh my gosh, it needs to be present because it's safety, for safety purposes and things. But oh my gosh, the level of compliance for licensing was a chore.
Yes.
It's not any of the workforce that works in that environment. It just is what it is because of safety and policy. So it's good stuff, but I'm like, wow, I kind of bit off another 60 hours worth of work a week that is not really all that available. So
yes. Yeah, we've heard that too. Yeah. Childcare is such a huge need in our community right now. And it is so important to get your certifications and your licensing to ensure that you're offering a safe place for the kids. So if you're interested in opening a childcare facility, reach out.
Yes.
We can certainly point you into the right direction. It is certainly a need in our community.
Get yourself an advocate through that Childcare Coalition to just be kind of like even your venting block. I know that I think you listen to me. I know that some of your other staff listen to me kind of grumble about the licensing process. Not in a negative way, just in like a timeline.
It's arduous.
Yeah.
It really is just a longer process.
Yeah. So I was like, thanks for just letting me cry it out.
Yeah. But it's such a need. You've been open for a little while now, and that's really exciting. Could you tell us just a little bit about your childcare model too, like the education style you're going for? I think it's a little bit unique for our community.
Yeah. So I bringing into that nostalgia and that history piece, my heart, that's like a solid brick in there. They in 1983, a bunch of doctors, I'm going to give you a little snippet of the history because this is how I got to the model that we're using. In 1983, there were a bunch, much like kind of the workforce environment that we have happening right now. Rhinelander was trying to attract a lot of physicians and qualified individuals to work for, I think it was then St. Mary's at the time. And there were several physicians and younger families who wanted to relocate here, but one of their items that they needed was childcare. And so those physicians working with some of their leadership at the time, I don't know if they were working with the chamber at the time or if they were working with maybe the leadership of St. Mary's, said, hey, could we open up a childcare center right here so that when we come to work, we have availability for our kids. Otherwise, we can't relocate here because without it, there's no way that, and many of these were families who had like dual doctors. So like one family I know was like a gynecologist and a radiologist, and another family was a gynecologist and maybe a nurse practitioner. So like these were attractive families for that industry that was needed workforce. Yeah. So they opened up the center, Children's Learning Center, in the hospital. It was actually in a large room, conference room that they designated for that, and they hired Joyce Folgert, who at the time, she's an artist. She still lives in Madison, and she's a huge childcare advocate, but she kind of brought that Montessori curriculum along with her own kind of artistry to the neighborhood. And she began this center, and there's some other data around that is just fascinating. But the biggest piece of that was less technology, more hands-on, bilingual. You can see, like I keep talking with my hands. You can see that happening right now.
I'm a hand talker too.
And so it's hard for me to put it down. So I'm like, we need to introduce American Sign Language into it, because if I'm actually using sign language as I'm talking with my hands, now I'm actually being bilingual as I'm communicating. Bringing in some of those languages just gently, not in a formal way so that all of a sudden little Johnny is coming home and only speaking Spanish too, but in a way that kind of introduces them early on, because we know that brain development is there. And then more of that independent learning type of model. So if we were looking at actual curriculum models, you're probably going to see STEAM and Montessori principles blended in daily. That classical education model that one of our local new schools is introducing to the area, where it's more about having languages integrated into your regular day. And so kids just kind of pick up on those languages. And then a whole lot of hands-on. So if we have this happen fairly frequently. We have an 18-month-old who will dump out the blocks and need to sit right in the middle of the blocks, because that's how their little brain is developing and building at the same time, and allowing that to happen. So we're licensed for up to 50. We're still hiring teachers and that kind of thing. So as we build those classrooms, we'll be able to meet that maximum level. But we really, our goal is that kids can be kids and really kind of engage in all of those fine and gross motor skills and such. So it's one of my favorites. Is just a couple of days ago, we have a little boy who he's picking up on his sign language all of a sudden. He's about 9 months old. And on Wednesday, he's like, I'm all done. More. please.
Yeah.
And it's just so great to be able to talk, to see them
Yeah.
interacting with teachers and then their peers. So they're talking with their peers that way. So
it's very cool. I love that. So because you've opened a facility, because you're involved heavily in working with those that are currently unhoused, is there any specific maybe challenges that you faced or like a fun, not, I don't want to say fun, but like a story you'd like to share that maybe can show some of the challenges that you guys have to deal with on a daily basis?
I think one of my heartstring pulls or challenges specifically with Frederick Place is that we have 16 beds available on a regular basis. It's kind of two-part. And our expectations are fairly low. I feel like they're fairly low. Like we just ask for just general, like, I'm going to respect you. You're going to respect me. We're going to meet in the middle. And sometimes they're going to say words to me that hurt my feelings. And sometimes I might have to be honest with you and ask you to be accountable to your own actions. And sometimes that means leaving our facility. So when anybody has to leave our facility, that piece just is like, oh man. And I feel like we're really generous. So we have a 90-day stay. That's what our goal is that when you come to stay with us, that it is truthfully temporary. So we're going to lean into resources here, resources at Nativity Thrift, resources at Goodwill, at our partners in the area, because those partners are long-term. You will be here solid to be able to assist with all of those things. But when we have somebody who just outright is like, no, I'm okay living homeless and I'm okay living on the street. I'm like, yeah, that is like, why? We have such generous community members. And then I think the second part that is really difficult in any economy, but particularly for our nonprofits in the area, is that lately, like in the last year or so, grant funding has really changed dramatically. And it's changed to the format where most grant funders and or some donors will want to donate for a specific project. Whereas for Frederick Place, it's operational expenses. That is our biggest expense. And that is traditionally no longer covered through grants or through donors don't want to necessarily pay for Lauren or Abby to be there or for the night staff to be there. Or pay for the regular bills. They're like, oh, did it, done it, kind of moving on. And that is constantly a deficit. So we are constantly fundraising. And fundraising is a really good time, but fundraising can be really tricky.
It is challenging. It definitely is.
So I think those are probably my biggest challenges, because I'm like, it's a great cause. How can
I think it's true for, like you were saying, a lot of nonprofits. Like the grant landscape out there has changed significantly in the last several months, year or so, and it is challenging. A lot of nonprofits do really rely on that community support.
As far as, or like they put a parameter that now it needs to be matched, and so you need to go, so I can do a fundraiser and make $4,000 and I'm going to have 8, but prior, you might have given me 8. I didn't have to do a whole lot of extra.
That makes sense. So we talked a little bit about challenges. How do you see maybe the future landscape? I think we've seen, at least from an outside perspective, I think the Rhinelander community has maybe seen a little bit more unhoused in the last year or so than maybe they were used to. And how could maybe like the community or what is out there that can help us move forward and do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think I do. Well, first of all, I think the greater Rhinelander community and our outside county, our Oneida County area, and we serve our general service area is Langlade, Forest, Vilas, Lincoln, and then Oneida. We primarily end up serving those who are living in the Oneida County area, just simply because those other counties
transportation, them get into you.
Exactly. So I don't know. And at this point, I guess I look at Oneida County and Rhinelander in particular are doing actually a really good job of taking care of our unhoused. I think a piece of the landscape that we might see in the future not tomorrow, but maybe in the future, is some greater parameters around where those who are living unhoused may be able to stay.
Mm.
So believe it or not, they do sometimes have their own little network of living unhoused. And so they'll be like, well, you can stay underneath this place, or you can stay in this park, or you can do this, that, and the other, which makes it really difficult for Rhinelander PD or for Oneida County Sheriff's Department to be able to say, hey, we have this great resource. Please go use it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, if a person wants to be stubborn and say, no, thank you, and I'm going to stay right here, they sometimes know what their rights are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. And it's good.
Yeah.
But I really feel like in the future we might see, or I would hope that we would see, like our Rhinelander city government get a little more involved and say, oh, we have this great resource. We're going to support this resource so that you can get back on your feet in a different way, so you can be a productive community member.
Sure.
I think another piece of that equation is that we have some great folks who have lived at Frederick Place as unhoused folks who are now thriving in their community. It's a result of all of our community members here. I think another challenge that we will continuously face, this is nationwide, not just here, is funding of the resource. We just saw Tri-County have a little bit of a funding snafu.
Yeah.
And what a resource to have, kind of run into some darker days.
Right.
And I think another great thing that Rhinelander has going for it is that I think all of our nonprofits really take really good care of each other.
Yeah.
And
see a lot of partnerships and things like that with our nonprofits. Yeah.
Yes. And I think like for me, who's lived here in this community, is a part of this community, sometimes I forget that if you kind of step outside of the Rhinelander area and maybe just go even a little south, like Wassa, Stevens Point, those community partnerships might not be as strong as they are here. Maybe it's that little familial hodeg, I don't know. But you see a lot of that partnership happening where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take care of you and you're going to take care of me. And oh, I have this great resource. Let me get you. Recently, we have the Rhinelander District Library is a fantastic partner for Frederick Place. And we had the Rhinelander, they have a literacy, and I don't remember the name of it. It's I don't even know if they're a nonprofit yet, but they're just starting up for adult literacy. We forget that some of these folks are homeless because they don't know how to read. Mm-hmm. And so Rhinelander District Library and or some of their regular supporters recognized a concern, and they're like, hey, we're going to do this for you. We don't want any money for it, but this is what we're doing. So I think in the future, we're going to see more consolidation of nonprofits kind of partnering together for events, for fundraising, and then just continuing to build those relationships, because we're temporary. Like I said earlier, you're long-term. Mm-hmm. Nativity Thrift is long-term. Like I could go through all of these. Yeah. Trinity, NAMI, all of these great nonprofits are long-term. Mm-hmm. We want our folks to lean into those resources because. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to flip to my other page of questions here. We're just going to keep on rolling. Okay. I think we touched on this a little bit, but a lot of people, when they think about homelessness, maybe have in their mind that concept of what homelessness looks like in a large city. Yeah. But that might look a little different in the Northwoods. And I think, like you said, I think you talked about it a little bit, but is there a way that we could maybe explain to listeners that homelessness might not be exactly what you think it is? Like you might maybe have a bias about what homelessness is.
Absolutely. I think there's a perception that individuals who are homeless are violent drug addicts. I hate to put it that way, but I think there's this perception that they all are scary and that we shouldn't be talking to them, helping them, or anything of that kind because they're dangerous. Mm-hmm. And frankly, at least in our area, and at least what we have seen, that's not the case at all. Mm-hmm. Most who are staying at Frederick Place right now are homeless because they've lost their housing due to wonderful folks moving here, which is great. They want to move here and live here. And so, somebody who might have been a landlord in the past has decided, had an investment property, has decided, I think I'm just going to retire and I'm going to sell out. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a single family home again, as opposed to a rental. And The second folk population that we're seeing a lot of right now are veterans and elders, like 80 plus year old. We have several 80 plus year old folks living at Frederick Place right now. And it's simply because of our affordable housing. Like they may have been living in a home. Social Security isn't quite cutting it, or their pension isn't quite cutting the bills.
Yeah.
And so they become evicted. And I got to add this piece, because our property managers in town, like, it really, truthfully, it eats many of them up. I can't say all, but I can say the greater majority of our property managers in town are just like, I don't want to kick out this person who is 83 years old, but they haven't paid their rent in a year, and they're managing properties for other people who are going to get on their case if they don't receive those funds. So like they really take it to heart.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going with any of that. So I do know. I can reroute myself. So we have our, I kind of sidestep there. We have a lot of elders. We have a lot of young families with younger kids staying with us. This year we had an incredible uptick of 18-year-olds. Talk about another heartstring. Graduation day, they moved to Frederick Place. So they marched and then they came to Frederick Place to call it their home for 3 or 4 months because they lost their housing solution.
Sure.
I appreciate all of our partnerships in town, because the Rhinelander School District staff were like pre-planning for this when they found out that the student was going to be homeless. I can only say Rhinelander School District at this point. I know we've had them from other districts too, but that's one that we had the uptick this year from. We had 3 or 4 move in on graduation day. And these are like good people living in our community.
Yeah.
But they're working service industry. Many are working service industry jobs. It's either not cutting it for paying the bills, or it is a simplistic proposal.
And like you were mentioning, housing is a big topic. Probably going to be a future episode because it is such a big topic right now in the Northwoods, Rhinelander, the lack of affordable housing, but really housing on all levels is needed.
Yes.
So I'm sure we'll be talking about that in a future episode.
It's huge. I mean, really, truthfully. And I know that we have some developers in town who are interested in getting things rolling along, and the city of Rhinelander is working with those situations, but it's expensive to put up those properties too.
It is. So if you had like a magic wand.
Yep. I like this.
Is there, are there certain resources that like you see a need for Frederick Place right now that you're like, oh, I wish we could do this, that you maybe want to share? I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yes. There's probably plentiful. Operational expenses are always kind of at the back of my brain. But if somebody like went in and paid our utility bills, like our Rhinelander, our city water bill, and our just general utility bill, that'd be cool. Our biggest project that we really have a need for right now is that we have to re-side Frederick Place in order to maintain that building. It has asbestos siding on it. And it's like $150,000 project. And so we're like, well, we'll just keep painting over it. And fortunately, that seems to be meeting it for right now. But we're like, in 5 years.
We need a long-term solution.
We do, we have a really good board who works for us. So we're, getting, younger folks involved in our board. Our board members now are fabulous, like no complaint, but it's pretty senior and retired as far as.
I think that's true for a lot of nonprofits right now.
Is it?
Yeah, I think trying to start to engage the next generation of community leaders is something that I mean, through our leadership program that we do, like we're really trying to instill that community involvement and try to get that next generation of people involved in our nonprofits.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think about my current board. And then like my age group, I think there's only 2 on the board that are in my age range and 0 that are at the next level that could be starting to engage in that. And if we don't start, if we don't start engaging that second generation, who is going to carry the torch
into the future?
It could be a really problematic situation, because 15 years is not a joke. We have an 80% success rate. We've served over 1,200 people.
Yeah.
You look at Frederick Place in that lens, and it's like, we want to make sure that this is available. And if you look at the nationwide, we really don't want to see what's happening in some of these larger cities where folks are just not receiving the services that they need because they're living on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
okay. I'm going to shift just a little bit. I have a couple childcare questions.
Excellent.
So obviously, childcare is, like we mentioned, a big workforce challenge right now. Not just here, nationwide. It's a big deal. And we could talk forever about childcare. But are there any big hurdles that you're currently seeing within the community that maybe community members could help address, or things that the community can do to maybe help us move forward with childcare growth?
I think one of the items that we're starting to tap into at AE Academy is there is an incredible community of retired folks who need part-time, who would like maybe a part-time job or need a different space to volunteer. They, with any of our childcare centers, we would want to stay consistent with DCF licensing rules and things like that, and background checks and things like that. But I think from a community perspective, if you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer where it's a little less hard on your body, for example, get out and offer some volunteerism to these childcare centers, because you can actually be counted in ratio by showing up. And go through all the, do all the fingerprinting, this, that, and the other. But serve, and maybe choose to serve in that time. We have a couple of babies, an example, that are at AE Academy. They just love to be held.
Yeah.
They just do. It's great.
Yeah.
But sometimes the teacher needs their hands so that they can lead the art project.
Yeah.
And they need to put down I had a out of our 5, I had a baby that was like that too. So it's like, we want to give them that time, but maybe perhaps, Grandma Susan could come in and hold the baby all day long or for a couple of hours, or feed a bottle or that kind of thing.
Sure.
It would be I think it would be a really good opportunity to get involved in the community, but also, and then bring in some of that nostalgic information, that history of working in the school district, or it's a way to kind of give back to your students sometimes. I mean, yesterday I had an event, I got to see one of my former teachers, and he had a stroke, and he knew me, and he was like, to be able to give some of my, kind of give back and forth some of that good positive energy. I think another piece with childcare industry that we're running into is obviously staffing. I think most of the childcare centers in the area. So when we opened up AE Academy, it wasn't necessarily to be competitive with everybody else. It was to be complementary and supplemental to everybody else. We just want to break even as far as that goes, not necessarily make a profit, but provide quality childcare available to folks and the workforce. Wages are tricky. So from a community perspective, if you can, we don't have to be nonprofits to make a donation to a center. But if you can supplement in that kind of way, or say, hey, I have a grant if you want to pay for a teacher for these hours or what have you. Yeah. That would be something really cool. Yeah. I think a challenge that they also see is the licensing process is really, really long. There's a lot of detail to it.
Could you share maybe how many months you were kind of undergoing?
Oh my gosh. So first it took us about 8-9 months. For whatever reason, it was nobody's fault, but for whatever reason, our building had defaulted to residential 1. So it took us about 8 or 9 months to get that changed and rezoned so we could use the building for its intended purpose. And then it took about another year before we were actually finally licensed completely with our group license. And that was things like, and I've shared some of these suggestions with some of the partners, but everybody had a timeline. So we get to the final end, and one of the organizations like, okay, and we get 24 weeks to work through this process before we can allow you to accept childcare assistance and childcare subsidy payments. And so going way back in the conversation to Frederick Place, like most of those families qualify for childcare assistance. And I was like, no. We cannot go another 6 months because it took us about 9-10 months to get open after we got it rezoned. And all of these steps had a step that had to be completed before you could start the next step.
Yeah.
So I think, from a community member perspective, if you know this process and you get somebody who is interested in opening up a childcare center and you have the time, like you or I or some others might not have the time, but if you have the time to just be like, okay, now you got to do this form. Now you got to do this form. Now you got to do this fingerprint. Now you got to do this background check. Now you got to go get this, like just to kind of handhold and walk you through that process. Ridiculous.
It is a lot. We've heard that through the Childcare Coalition. Definitely. It's not just you, it's all over.
It's all over. And unfortunately, it's kind of like little different pieces. So it's not even like one, like there's not one. I'm a root cause type of person. Like, what's causing the problem? Let's fix that problem, because then everything else will be solution oriented like that. Well, it's not one piece. It's like this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece.
Yeah.
It was, and then we ran into the holidays, and then
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
One other thing, I mean, obviously you're trying to grow your staffing and stuff too. On the Childcare Coalition side, I just thought I'd share a resource. If you are thinking about going into early childhood education, Nicolay College is a great resource. They have a great program over there. And a couple of years ago, the Oneida County Child Care Coalition did establish a scholarship that's dedicated to early childhood education. So if you are thinking about that as a career field, like reach out to Nicolay and see if that's an opportunity, because there is a scholarship dedicated to that program.
And they're also, I know that it's still being developed, but I don't think it's in the Nicolay College Board of Trustee chair right now. So we just
another role.
We all serve extra roles. But I just heard last month, and I don't think it's unreasonable for me to say, it'd be public record anyway, is that they are working on a childcare program with an apprenticeship program. So you can OJT some of that case or that coursework while on the job and earning a wage.
Yeah.
And another partner, I don't know which partner, I mean, like they are at elementary stages. So I would guess that program will probably roll out in the spring, or maybe like, early winter. Would it be early winter, January, February? I know that they're partnering with a couple of agencies. So between that scholarship and the apprenticeship program.
Yeah. Good experience and some financial support through those programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really great. Okay. Tie in one more question, and then I have one more fun question after that. What motivates you to kind of dedicate your career to such like foundational needs like this? Like housing and childcare are very important topics. And is there something that really motivates you to do this work?
I didn't realize, like, there is a piece of me that just wants every person to be thriving and in their own happy way. So if that means, I would always tell my kids, happy, healthy, safe, self-supporting. So however you choose to be self-supporting, if that is supporting your lifestyle and creating an environment where you're happy and you're healthy and you're living in a home that works for you, that is like my driving factor. I think I want Rhinelander to thrive. So, some of these bigger issues that happen in Rhinelander, like they like infuriate me. And when it infuriates me, it's like lighting the fire. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go there and I'm just going to do it. Like somebody's got to do it. I'm going to do it. Now that can be not so great for your own well-being and health, because sometimes you overstress yourself. But I want this community to thrive into the next generation. I have a granddaughter who would be like the 8th generation. And I'm like, I hope that when she's only 1, so a lot could change in this time. But when she gets to the point in her life where I'm like, oh, I hope you stick around in the Rhinelander area and that we have set a foundation for that.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of energy from our community partners, yourself, Carrie Bladorn from all of his things, Channel 12, Jeff, and I guess you heard about earlier, or heard from earlier. I could just go on and on, like Jerry Scheidel, Mike Roman, and George Roman, like all of these people. And I'm like, okay, your spirit is going to live on, and this family that we've created in this community is going to live on. Now you need to have those pieces that help you be happy, healthy, and thriving in your community. And so workforce is important. How else do you support your family to do that? Recognizing that we all add value to the greater impact of the community. So, pick up your Lego and get to building. I'm going to add this yellow Lego. You might add a red one, and we're going to keep building along the way. So,
yeah, I love that. Okay. First, could you share maybe your websites of your organizations? So if people wanted to make a contribution to NATH Frederick Place or learn more about AE Academy, where could they find them on the internet?
Absolutely. Facebook, social media platforms. I do have a social media manager at both places that kind of takes care of those. But Northwoods.com is where you'll find all things happening for Frederick Place. So all of our events are there. Updates. We try to do updates regularly. I'm terrible at doing it. I'm hoping to shift that over to somebody else. So Northwoods.com. And then AE Academy is aeacademy.site, which is a little different. But when our social media manager was setting it up, that was what you could get. That was the closest at the time. So aeacademy.site.
Okay.
And of course, find me around the community or stop in and see us, and we'll get you situated.
Perfect. So now I just have one fun question to kind of wrap it all up. Obviously, you're doing so much in like your professional life, but what is something that you enjoy doing personally?
I enjoy annoying people. No, I love having a sense of humor. So, I love hiking, but like random hiking. Like I don't like to have a plan. I'm very spontaneous. So, point in case opening up a daycare on the fly, like, oh sure, let's do this. It turned out great, but I am known for being spontaneous, and I love driving out my ideas. So in my fun time, believe it or not, like I'm usually generating the next idea. My son just told me recently, it's like, because I have another business idea that I'm like, oh, I think Rhinelander needs this. Maybe we should open this up, or I should find somebody to do this. And my son's like, Mom, maybe or not. Maybe you just take a break. You're always a little stressed. But then I also really enjoy telling the story of our history. So the house that I live in is 138 years old this year, and it was formerly the late Sheriff Miller from like the 20s, 30 era, not Sheriff Miller from my era, lived in that home with his mother. And during Prohibition, the Taylor family lived right next door. The Taylor family was Coca-Cola bottling company. And believe it or not, those two families were in cahoots, and they had a real life Andy Griffith taking place in my home. So my home had a jail cell in it. Believe it or not, the sheriff lived in my home. The Taylors supplied the bottles, and they bootlegged whiskey out of the attics of both of those buildings. But if somebody got a little too annihilated or a little too was going to give away their space, they just sat in the jail cell, which is now my bathroom. Sat in the jail cell. And so I love finding out history like that, and then just like telling the story to anybody who wants to listen to it. So you get to listen to that story today.
I like that kind of stuff too. It's really interesting to me through our leadership program, the places that we go and tour and the things that you learn. It's just always fun to learn about Rhinelander. And I grew up here, but I mean, every day there's still something new. Yeah.
Just so many. I mean, and it keeps the stories going, and it's a true story.
Mhm.
So there has to be truth to the story, and then it also has to, I mean, like, it's fun.
Yeah.
So,
well, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down and talk with me today and share a little bit of your background and the things that you're involved in and how the community can get involved with the different entities that you're a part of. So thank you so much.
thank you for having me. What a treat to come and sit and talk for a bit.
Yes, so much fun. So this has been an episode of our Real Rhinelander podcast. Tune in next month, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Lauren.